Hello and welcome to a very chilly December. So this video is going to be my last one of this year, and we're looking at everything that I finished, made and started in November. As you can see, there are two books here on your screen, so that is because I have finished the second book that I started this year and I'm now on to the third one. So let's have a look at the second one. So the first thing that I finished in November was the balloon sleeve shrug, which I'd started in September. It took me a little while to get through it, but it's really cozy, it fits perfectly, and I'm really happy with how that went. I also frogged the granny octagon trousers that I had started in September. They proved a point, and I didn't feel the need to finish making them. So those have been frogged and the yarn's gone back in the to be made pile. And then I also made 6 pairs of socks. These were for an order for one of my colleagues. They're all intended as Christmas gifts, so I was very glad that the order had come in September because it gave me more than enough time to get them all done before they needed to go off to be given for Christmas. So moving on to things that I started in November. I like to get things out of the way quite early in the year when it comes to making things for Christmas. So the beginning of November, I started thinking about Christmas gifts, what things I wanted to give to my friends and family and whatnot. And the first thing I started was a load of little bags to put gifts in for my colleagues. I haven't made them for every single person in the department because it's an absolutely massive department now, but the people on my team and the other team managers and whatnot are all going to get a little something from me in one of these bags. It was a really great way of using up some of the sock yarn that I've got left over. If you've been watching any of my videos for a while now, you'll know that I have a lot of sock yarn and I'm always looking for ways to use it up. So this was a really good way of doing that. I made 15 altogether and I really like how they've gone. They were really easy, just a couple of granny squares and then sort of stitched together and a little drawstring to close them up. Then I made this scarf for my granddad for his Christmas gift. So he's the man who has everything that he needs. So he can be hard to make and buy gifts for. So I asked my dad and he said that a scarf might be nice because my parents like handmade things and I know that my granddad does as well. I've made him socks before, but he doesn't necessarily need super warm socks because he doesn't go outside all that often, especially when the weather is really bad, as far as I know. And the surprise isn't going to be ruined for him because I don't think he knows what YouTube is, never mind watching any of the videos I've ever put out. I made this on my knitting machine. I've got the Addy Express and the Addy King, and I think it's the King is the bigger one and the Express is the smaller one. I made this scarf on the bigger one and I made it way too long, but that just means that there's more to wrap around and keep even cozier. This is another Christmas gift, this time for my Uncle Chris. I asked him what he might like if I was to make something, because I have made him socks before, and I wanted to see if he wanted more socks or if he wanted something else, and he asked for a snood, so I made this one. The reason he asked for that is because he's an avid motorbiker, so he likes to have things, especially for the winter, to keep various bits of him warm. So snoods are a great way to do that because unlike a regular scarf, they're not going to come loose and come off or injure you in some way. So I had a go at one of these. The next thing I made is a scrunchie for mum. I had made one before this one that's pictured and it was absolutely massive. And looks ridiculous. And when I say massive, it's like big this way instead of this way. So she'll probably still get that one as well because she can use it if she wants to. I might make another one of a slightly different material if I have the chance before we head off to my parents for Christmas. But I'm really happy with how this came out. I hand sewed it, but it didn't take very long because it's just basically a tube with a piece of elastic in the middle of it. This is another snood that I made, inspired by the first one that I did. I decided to make another one, and this has been given to one of my colleagues / friends as her birthday gift. I thought she might like this, and she's very happy with it. She said it works wonderfully well. This is a third snood that I've made. This is another one that I'm going to give to Uncle Chris. After the first one, I thought, A long one might be nice as well, because the first one will just sit on the neck, but this one can be worn either on the neck or as like a hood and a scarf in one. So extra little bit of warmth. And this is made out of a slightly thicker yarn as well, as you can see, compared to that one. It's a bit thicker, so a bit warmer in theory. Hopefully they'll do him well. This is a triangle scarf or a very short shawl. I'm in an online Secret Santa and I thought it would be nice to put something handmade in there. I've also sent them some retro British sweets, as it's gone all the way to Canada, and I don't know the person personally, so I don't know if they like or will have had British sweets before, but I put some of my favourites in there, like sherbet dib dab and a wham bar and a couple of other bits. I think I'm going to make one of these for myself as well at some point. I'm going to put it on the list of things to make if I don't have ideas about anything else, because it's quite nice. It worked out quite well. These are for my dad for Christmas. So he already had a pair of socks for his birthday, which was in October, but he asked for another pair of socks with a slightly longer ankle area, because the ones that I've made him previously are a bit shorter than that and don't sit the same in his boots as these would. So he asked for a longer ankle portion so that he doesn't lose his socks when he's wearing them with boots. And the last thing in this book is some dungarees. Now, I don't have a picture of the finished thing here. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know that earlier in the year I had altered a pair of dungarees that I'd bought, and I'd put them away because I wasn't happy with what I'd done and the outcome from it. But I'd spent ages doing it because I'd hand sewn it all rather than using machine. I was fed up with it. I didn't want to carry on, so I put them away until a time when I was more ready to look at them again. And that apparently was the 17th of November. So what I did was I didn't remove anything from the material that I'd added in, but I just sort of folded it in half at the top on the waistband so that I still had all the room in the leg, which I quite liked, but I didn't have as much in the waist because I put far too much in, about twice as much as I needed to on each side, and they were like clown pants. So I'm much happier with how the waistband is. I wore them for a day just around the house, and I came across a couple of problems which I do want to rectify. Well, I say a couple of problems, one problem really, which I will rectify at some point. Basically, the issue that I have with them is because they're black cotton denim type material and they've got absolutely no stretch and no give in them, which was the issue I had with them in the first place, because there was no stretch when I sat down to accommodate for the changing dimension of my body as I sit down compared to when I'm standing. And there's still that problem to an extent when even though they're fixed now, because of the length of the body. So if I tie the straps to be the right length when I'm stood up, if I sit down, it kind of pulls at the crotch area in not necessarily a painful way, but just an annoying way. But if I tie them up to be comfortable when I'm sitting down, when I stand up, they're much too loose and my love handles are on display at the side. My plan is to swap the loops on the front flap for a pair of buttons, maybe a pair on each side, I'm not sure, and then cut the straps and add elastic to them. Have it so that the strap and the elastic, when they're combined together and done up with the buttons, when I'm stood up, there's slight tension or no tension on the elastic, so that when I sit down, the elastic takes that tension rather than the crotch of the pant. So that will probably be a project for a weekend, or maybe I've got a week off in January, so I might spend an afternoon doing it then. But there's no hurry because I've had these dungarees for ages and I've only worn them once. So I'm not in any hurry to make sure that I wear them really often. So that's the end of that book. And as I do with all, I say all, this is only the second one, but as I do with all of my books, I've made a nice little house for it. This is yet again another way to use up a load of my sock weight yarns that I've just accumulated. So I've made this little pouch for it to sit in with a nice little button on the front so that it will stay shut, and that will go on the bookshelf with the other one. And so this is the current journal. This is one that it didn't come with the elastic to hold it together and the elastic for the pen. I added those on, and in fact it's the first thing in the journal is adding that in. So what I did was I used a little mini electric grinder to make holes for the elastic to go through. So I just did a loop. Oh, I added a pocket, but apparently it's come undone. The glue has not held very well. But I just put this through and sewed it together. And then I also drilled, see if you can see that, a couple of holes there for the loop. And then I sewed on this little loop of elastic as well for the pen. And I'm really happy with how that worked out. I wish I measured the elastic when I did that so that I can get it the same next time. But actually I can probably just measure that and double it, and that should work. So the next thing which I started, haven't finished yet, is a triangle scarf. So I'm using one of the cakes of the Sultan Shadow yarn from Cotton Kings. When I bought these, it's because I saw the yarn and thought, oh, that's lovely, I want to make something with that. I ordered it in 3 different colours and had absolutely no idea what to make with them. So I made a shawl with the green one. This one is the kind of lavender, dusky, purpley kind of colour. And I'm making a scarf with it, but it's a triangle scarf, so it could be worn as a shawl if I wanted to, but my intent is for this to be like a scarf rather than a shawl. And I have basically gone for a really, really easy way of doing a triangle shawl. And I probably will do a video for this when I finished it, because it's a modified 2-row repeat pattern. And I've modified it so it's a 1-row repeat. The next thing I made is this infinity scarf. I again cracked out the knitting machine for this. This was a gift for another colleague and friend of mine who also had a birthday recently, and it was gratefully received. She wasn't expecting anything from me, so she was quite surprised when she came into work and there was a parcel on her desk for her. But I don't know if she's worn it yet, but she did very much like the colour of it. It's hard to get a good photo of the colour of this yarn. It's such a rich greeny blue. It's really, really nice. This is the same yarn that I used for the first snood that I made for my uncle for his Christmas present as well. And I've got some of this left, so I think I'm going to make a glove out of this yarn, because I'm currently making the first glove in the pair with the purple yarn that I've got of this same kind of one. So I think I'll make the second one out of this, so I have an odd pair instead of a matching one. This is one of my stash busting ideas. So I'm using up my sock weight yarns, because when I tell you that I have a lot of them, I'm not exaggerating when I say it's an awful lot. So I'm making a jumper, but with a 3/4 length sleeve, because that's the length I favour. Even if I'm wearing a long sleeve, whatever, I'll push the sleeves up, because that's just how I feel comfortable. So I figure, why knit more than I need to if I'm just going to end up pushing the sleeves up anyway. The pattern is basically based on the raglan pattern that I developed for the green jumper that I made earlier this year. I'm not sure if this is going to be like a cropped jumper or a full length one or not. I will decide when I get to the length that I would stop at, if it's going to be a cropped one or if I run out of yarn at that point. I probably won't run out at that point, but you never know. So this is the pair of gloves that I was talking about. I've just about finished one of the gloves in this purple, and I think the next one I'm going to do in that blue. I'll have to make sure I've got enough yarn first, because I'm not entirely sure how much yarn I'll need to use, and I've not got a hell of a lot left of the blue. But basically I'm doing fingerless gloves, but with a covered thumb. But also because I hate using double pointed needles and it's less faff for me personally, I just crocheted the thumb. It does end up looking a little bit weird because the texture is different, but I've not made these for form, I've made them for function. So I don't mind too much, because I'll just be wearing them while I'm walking. They'll probably be in my pocket anyway, and then they'll go in my bag until I put them on again to go home. And the last thing that I have started but not finished yet is a bag strap. So I have a Living Dead Souls bag. I can't remember the name of it. It's a stripy one. I'll see if I can find a proper picture of it, which has a long strap and then handles. So you can either have it as a crossbody or just like a handbag. And at some point I've taken off the long strap and I've put it somewhere or used it on a different bag or something, and now I can't find it. So I decided to crochet a strap. So there are some issues when crocheting a strap because it will stretch. So I've done everything I can to make it as stretchless as possible, but there will still be some stretch in it. To combat that, and as long as it's not an extreme amount of stretch, I'm making it an adjustable strap in the same kind of strap that was on the bag originally, because I've got all the hardware and things for that. So if it's a bit heavier and stretches out quite a lot, I can shorten the strap to take up that difference, so it's not hanging out around my knees. It might be an absolute bust, but I'm about 2/3 of the way done with it, so I'll carry on and see how it does. If it doesn't work very well, I'll go out and buy one. I have the equipment and the stuff. I don't mind spending the time to try and make something rather than buying something. And that's it. That's the last thing for November. So if you've been watching all of my videos, thank you for joining me this year in my crafting journal. The next video obviously will be for December, so that will be in January. If you have any questions on anything that I've made or any suggestions for things, especially stash busting ones, I need stash busting ones because I've got a big stash of yarns. Please do let me know in the comments or send me a message on other social media. If you do want to find me elsewhere, there is a Linktree link down below which has all of my links on it. I also have an Etsy shop if you do want to buy any jewellery that I've made, though that is available on there, and also some handbags and other things that I've made too. So whatever you're doing this winter, I hope you have a lovely time and enjoy time with your friends and family and anyone else you're spending time with, or if you're doing nothing at all, I hope you enjoy that too. So I will see you next year.